Hola, hola, buen día, buen día. Acá ya tuvimos como una charlita previa, porque nos estuvimos comentando algunas cosas existenciales, como el por qué se caen las piernas, y un poquitito lo que yo estaba comentando es porque la gente realmente o no entiende el trabajo, o se rinde antes de tiempo, o definitivamente no hace el clic, ¿verdad? Y yo les estaba contando que a mí también me costó hacer el clic. No fue de la noche a la mañana, pero una vez que lo hice lo tengo como tan incorporado que para mí este es un trabajo en serio, lo hago con la responsabilidad y con el respeto que también así requiere. Así que el día de hoy, además, les tengo la sorpresa de que vamos a hablar del por qué. Aquí todas estuvieron en el ciclo anterior, ¿verdad? Ok, Pati no.
Sí.
Entonces,
Ah,
Elba, ¿tú
sí,
estuviste?
Fabi no estuvo
Fabi,
en el
Fabi
ciclo
fue la que
anterior.
no estuvo.
Fabi
Ahora,
no.
¿a qué te
Ok,
refieres con el ciclo anterior? O sea, yo he estado como todo
está
completo.
bien, perfecto. Entonces, bien, hay alguien que lo va a escuchar como por primera vez,
Por primera
pero
vez.
cuando lo escuchamos por segunda vez, es como que se nos penetra más en el cerebro. Así que bueno, ya les voy a empezar a compartir pantalla. Tan, taran, tan. Y déjenme revisar unas cositas antes de empezar a compartir para no meter la pata. A ver, a ver, a ver. Aquí estamos. El lead. Bueno, ¿dónde está mi Zoom? Acá vamos. Compartir sonido, no te olvides, Claudia. Bueno, entonces, estamos aquí, 5 de diciembre. Hoy es el cumple de mi hija dorada, mi sol, el sol de nuestras vidas, y es el día 24. Vamos a hablar sobre Mindset Matters, que esto quiere decir que todo el tema de mindset es muy importante, y vamos a hablar de encontrar nuestro porqué. Encontrar nuestro porqué es tan importante porque es nuestro motor diario que nos inyecta para esos días que decimos, ay, ¿será que hoy hago? Mejor lo hago a la noche o lo llamo más tarde, y nos vamos haciendo la procrastinación horrible, pero bueno, real, ¿verdad? Entonces, vamos a escuchar este audio. Es un audio un poquitito largo, lo voy a ir frenando para ir haciendo las traducciones, así que voy a necesitar 100% de su atención para no estar dispersas, porque es muy importante que esto lo podamos tener como bien consolidado. Así que vamos a empezar a escuchar el audio de Patrick.
Hi, my name is Spencer Pettit, and I'm with you today to walk you through a very unique but insightful Finding Your Why exercise. Now, as you get started here, I want you to understand that this Finding Your Why exercise is unlike any other Finding Your Why exercise that's out there. It's not going to have you talk about your goals, and it's not going to have you write down the things that you dream about. This is where a lot of people get confused and actually lose their motivation because they get confused with what their why really is. Now, before I tell you more about that, I just want you to understand that this why exercise is very simple. You will get out of it what you put into it. There's only 4 questions, and each question is designed to walk us down through the layers of our mind to get to the core of what really drives us. Now, back to the why. A lot of people get confused about what a why really is.
Bueno, hasta aquí de lo que está hablando, perdón, es Spencer Petit, es que si no tenemos bien definido cuál es nuestro por qué, es donde vamos perdiendo la motivación. Y este es un ejercicio de 4 preguntas que nos van a ayudar a encontrar nuestro porqué y nuestro porqué real y nuestro porqué profundo, que nos van a llevar a lo largo de nuestra carrera, ¿sí? Vamos a ir escuchando el porqué de cada uno.
When somebody's standing up on stage introducing themselves, they quite often will show a picture of their family. They might even show a home representing a paid off mortgage, or they might talk about bringing their husband home to work with them. All of those things are valid goals, but they're not your why. They represent your why. You see, your why is not a thing. Your why is a feeling. I'm going to say that.
Aquí está hablando que, por ejemplo, cuando nosotros vamos a hacer una presentación y ponemos una foto de nuestra familia, de nuestros hijos, de nuestras metas, no son nuestro porqué. Nos ayudan a apalancar nuestro porqué, pero nuestro porqué no es material, nuestro porqué más bien es un sentimiento, es algo que sentimos.
Again, your why is not a thing, your why is a feeling. And things don't have the power to motivate you. Things come and go, and in your core, you understand that. You understand that circumstances can change, and very possibly the thing that you're going after, it's temporary. It's finite. It has an end. Whereas your feelings, which of course have been created by your experiences, those have the power to pull you through. That's why you get out of bed.
Bueno, muy importante lo que dice, que las cosas materiales van y vienen y no son un motor para impulsarnos a hacer las cosas. En cambio, los sentimientos sí actúan como un motor para empujarnos e ir por más.
Morning. So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with saying that your family is a motivating factor for you, or to say that financial freedom is a motivating factor. All of those things have the power to motivate you, but it's because of what they represent. You see, just as an example, if your family is a motivating factor for you, it's because of the feeling that you have of wanting to create a loving home. Maybe it's because you didn't have a loving home growing up, or maybe it's because you did and you want to replicate that. Either way, it's based on a feeling that you have, okay? So things don't motivate us like feelings do. Think about all the
De vuelta, con un ejemplo, lo que menciona es que las cosas no nos motivan como nos motivan las emociones.
biggest decisions that you've ever made. The biggest decisions that you've ever made have been done because of how you felt about something. And many of your regrets in life were because you either misjudged your feelings or because you acted solely on your feelings and didn't think about all of the consequences, right? Okay, so with all of that said, I'm going to lay out the format about how this is going to go. Now, like I said, the time that we have allotted here is what you make of it. And I'm going to ask you to pause a few times and to write down your answers. So the time that you spend here will be a little bit longer than what you see allocated in the call time signature here. So,
Bueno, ahora va a hablar de las 4 preguntas. Vamos a ir haciendo pausas porque es importante escribir la pregunta e ir escribiendo las respuestas.
you need to understand that you're going to take a little bit longer to do this. And as a matter of fact, when I do this one-on-one with people, it can take up to 2 hours. Now, I'm not saying that you need to do that because, of course, I'm working with them very specifically one-on-one. But what you do want to do is you want to make sure that you're in a nice, quiet place where you have a blank sheet of paper in front of you and a pen because you're going to be writing things down. And you want to make sure that you're free from distractions, that you can.
Lo que está mencionando simplemente es que esto a veces toma entre 2 horas de tiempo de hacerlo, cuando se hace individualmente. Importante tener un papel en blanco para ir anotando todo y sobre todo no tener distracciones para poder estar bien concentrados.
Focus in on this because finding this core why is actually what we will call your point of origin. It's your starting point. Now, there's a great book out there. It's called Start With Why that's written by Simon Sinek. And in that book, he shares one overarching concept, which is that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. I'm going to say that one more time. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And so
Bueno, lo que está hablando ahora es, es sobre el Golden Circle. Yo les voy a pasar el link de este, es un TED Talk, no sé si escucharon hablar sobre eso, donde Simon Sinek, que la verdad que es un coach increíble, súper motivador, donde tiene unas ideas muy buenas y muy bajadas a tierra, y él habla de que la gente no compra lo que haces, sino la gente compra el por qué lo haces. Entonces empieza desde el why, después va a ir desde el how y después va a ir, o sea, el por qué, el cómo y el qué. En cambio, todo el mundo empieza el qué vendo, el cómo lo vendo y el por qué lo vendo. O sea, este es al revés. Es muy interesante poder ver, acá ya me lo estoy anotando para pasarles este TED Talk.
When you start with your why as your point of origin, when you truly understand why you do what you do, what motivates you, what makes you tick, what makes you hop out of bed in the morning, when you truly understand that, and then you put your goals off in the distance, those 2 points give you direction. It's a mathematical fact. You need a point of origin and you need a destination in order to have trajectory, in order to have direction. So it's crucial that we pin down this starting point so that not only you have direction, but that you can continue to draw on the strength of that knowledge as you move forward. So our goal today is to get that point anchored down as much as possible for you, so you know what makes you tick, you know what makes you do what you do, so that
El objetivo de hoy es entender el por qué hacemos lo que hacemos.
you progress forward, you're setting appropriate goals, and you're going about achieving them in ways that align with who you really are. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Now, I'm going to use a metaphor as we go through this. I'm going to liken this finding your why experience to climbing a mountain.
Va a empezar con nuestra experiencia de encontrar el porqué, con una metáfora de que va a hablar sobre empezar a escalar una montaña.
It's a very simple metaphor, but man, it really works well for this, okay? So what you're going to do is you're just going to take your sheet of paper, and at the very top, you're going to write, finding my why. Finding.
Lo que vamos a anotar ahora en nuestro papel es el título, encontrando mi porqué.
My why. And now you're going to write down number 1. Number 1, and you don't have to write this on the paper unless you want to. This is just for the sake of the metaphor here. You're going to write down, you're going to call this number 1 step the trailhead, okay? We're just getting to the trailhead here. Now, fortunately, because you are building a business with doTERRA, this gives us all a common trailhead to start with. So it's a very easy place to begin, and it helps get us oriented, all right?
Bueno, como número 1 habla del trailhead. Déjenme entender un poquitito de qué habla esto, pero yo creo que es como de nuestro sistema en la cabeza y nos explica el cómo funciona.
So what you're going to do is you're going to write down the number 1, and in order to get to the trailhead, you're going to answer this one simple question, and you're going to take as much time as you need to answer it. Each time that I ask you a question, you're just going to let the pen flow. You're just going to write and just kind of take everything out of your mind and put it onto paper. Now, some of you are going to write novels, and some of you are going to just write a few phrases. Either way, as long as it's authentic to you and what's popping into your mind, then you're going to make really great progress on this simple journey. So, the other thing that you need to know is that I'm going to give you simple writing prompts at the beginning, and it's crucial that you begin your answers with the prompts that I give you, and they're very simple, so just listen closely as I do that. So for the first...
Perdón, ahora nos va a dar la primera pregunta, y trailhead es el sendero que vamos a ir marcando en la subida de la montaña, el comienzo del sendero.
Answer, you're going to begin with because I. Now here's the question.
Y esta pregunta que nos va a hacer ahora la vamos a empezar contestando ¿por qué yo? Because I es ¿por qué yo? Pero no por qué del pregunta, sino del respuesta. Porque yo, tal cosa, ¿sí?
Why are you doing doTERRA as a business?
Okay. Why are you doing doTERRA as a business. Esto quiere decir en español, porque tú estás haciendo doterra como negocio. Y tenemos que contestar, because I, o porque yo, taca, 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 taca. Ahora vamos a ver qué ayudas nos da.
Why are you doing doTERRA as a business? And now you're going to write down the answer to that question here where you've written number 1 and just start with because I. Go ahead and pause the recording and write.
Ok, entonces vamos a hacer una pausa breve, vamos a tomarnos un minuto para escribir el por qué estoy haciendo doTERRA, porque estoy haciendo doTERRA como negocio, ¿sí? Iniciamos. Bueno, ¿necesitan un poquito más de tiempo o ya están bien? Listo, vamos ahora a ver qué nos dicen.
Okay, now that you're done writing down your answer to number 1, go back and review what you wrote. Most people have written down an answer that is beautiful. It's very simple. Even if you wrote a long essay for why you do doTERRA as a business, a lot of common answers, which are absolutely correct. There's no wrong way to do this. Perfectionists, calm down. There's no wrong way to do this. Most people write down things that are very publicly acceptable. Many of your answers that you've written down would look good on a t-shirt or maybe on a plaque on a wall. Maybe this is an elevator pitch that you have developed already in other exercises or programs. No matter what, chances are good that it has to do with something that's important to you. Maybe it's that you've had incredible experiences with the oils and you want.
Bueno, no hay respuesta incorrecta, todas las respuestas son válidas, pero justamente al trabajo que él quiere llegar es al llegar a más profundidad. La mayoría de la gente contesta de que los aceites me hicieron tan bien, entonces también los quiero compartir, o sea, empiezan por ese lado.
Share that with other people. Maybe it's that you have a financial need and you're working to fulfill that financial need.
También otra opción puede ser que tenías una necesidad financiera y trabajaste para poder llenar esa necesidad financiera.
Maybe it's because you've experienced health challenges in your life and you feel.
También otra opción es que pudiste haber experimentado un problema de salud y a través de doTERRA pudiste tener las soluciones. Entonces, déjenme anotar esto, listo.
A very strong desire to help other people with those health challenges. No matter what it is, what you've written down in number 1 is absolutely what we need. This is the trailhead. It's also what I call the bumper sticker why, okay? You don't have to write this down, but I call it the bumper sticker because this is a publicly acceptable statement about what we do. This is typically the canned answer or at least an acceptable answer of what you would give to a friend or family member that says, well, why are you doing doTERRA as a business? This is what you would say. Now, why is it important to know this? Well, because most individuals and even companies don't make it further than this first step. They can sit in full day seminars writing down all of their motivators, all of the things that they love, and they can deal in the semantics of the difference between between faith and hope and desire and passion, and they start to, change these words out so that by the end of the day, they have a very beautiful, flowery phrase that basically makes it as far as number one here in our exercise. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to look at what you wrote in number one because there's some clues here. Remember, this is a trailhead. We're just looking.
Bueno, las respuestas pueden ser varias, pero ahora lo que vamos a ver es qué escribimos en la respuesta número uno, porque hay algunas palabras que son claves.
That faded map with the little squiggly line going up the mountain here, okay? This is just giving us a little idea of which direction to go. So you're going to look at what you wrote in number one. You're going to write a number two now below it. We're going to answer this next question. Look at what you wrote in number one and ask yourself this question. Why does this matter to me? Why is this important to me? Or maybe it's simpler to just say, how come? Any of those ideas that help you to answer the question of why does what you wrote in number one matter to you? That's going to help you. Now, you're waiting for your writing prompt here. You're going to write, to begin answer number two, you're going to begin with, because I think. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit further on here. You will probably benefit most by saying, because I think blank matters, because I think blank is important. I think that people need X. I think that, okay, do you see where this is going? So go ahead and again, review what you wrote in number one and write down your answer to number two and begin with, because I think. Now,
Ok, lo que vamos a hacer ahora, la pregunta número dos es, ¿por qué es esto importante para mí? Y vamos a empezar respondiendo, porque yo pienso, en blanco, es importante. Y es referente a lo que escribimos en la pregunta número uno. Por decir un ejemplo, si yo puse, porque soy una persona que amé los resultados de los aceites y lo quiero compartir con la gente, en por qué esto es importante para mí, esto es importante para mí porque el compartir los aceites me hace sentir feliz, completa, realizada, no sé, ustedes van viendo qué es lo que les pasa con esta pregunta.
go ahead and pause the recording here and write down your answer.
Ok, vamos a volver a tomarnos un minuto, ¿sí? A ver, detener, vamos a iniciar de vuelta, reiniciar. Listo. Me pasé de tiempo. Bueno, continuemos.
All right, good. Now you've got this second answer down in front of you. It's possible, if you're being very sincere and honest with yourself, that as you're giving this second answer, which I call the cognitive response, this is simply where I'm asking you to think about why you wrote down what you did in number one. Some of you may have felt defensive in writing this down. Some of you may have felt a little twinge of emotion as you started writing things down. Either way, what you're doing is you're justifying your position, and this is an extremely important mental step. What we're doing is we're actually peeling away the physical layers of your brain, of your mind. We're working from the outside in. We're starting with very logical answers using your neocortex, and we're moving down through the layers of the brain because what we're
Y aquí lo que está mencionando es que simplemente todavía estas dos preguntas son como muy externas, ¿verdad? Recién estamos como una cebolla empezando a abrir las capas de nuestro cerebro. Todavía no estamos llegando como a la profundidad, pero necesitamos de estas dos respuestas para entender.
after is we want to get to the very core of who you are, which is stored in the parts of the brain that make up the limbic system. Now, I know this all sounds fancy and crazy, and there's a lot of brain science here going on. But the point of why I'm telling you this is I want you to understand that your feelings exist at a core part in your mind, in your soul. And as we peel away these logical layers where we operate, and most of the day we're able to get down.
A medida que vamos a ir sacando estas capas de la cebolla y vamos entrando a una parte más profunda de nuestro cerebro que se conecta con nuestro interior, con nuestro core, ahí vamos a empezar a florecer los sentimientos, que esa es la parte de la conexión que tenemos con nuestro porqué.
To the most wonderful, tender, even sacred spaces in our mind and heart, okay? Now, as you've given this answer in number 2, what you've done is you've actually employed the neocortex, the logical part of our mind. This is what separates us from the apes. This is what makes us unique as a species on the planet. It gives you the ability to plan and to fulfill those plans, to innovate, to invent, and to execute, okay? Now, as you have this answer written down and you've justified what you wrote in number 1, there's a little bit more clues here as we're moving up the mountain that is your emotional why, okay? Now, you've written this down and you're looking at what you've written here, and you might have kept it in the same lane. Remember that as we're moving into this, that this is going to be getting into an emotional space. So even though this answer was logical, we're going to make a big leap here as we move into question number 3. And you have to, again, assure that you're in a quiet spot without interruption where you can be totally vulnerable and open with yourself. If you can't be open with yourself, who can you be open with? Look at what you wrote in number 2.
Bueno, ahora lo que nos pide es que ya vamos a estar más abiertos y más vulnerables, que es una parte más sensible, que ya vamos a estar entrando a la parte emocional, y nos pide que veamos nuestra respuesta número 2.
Review what you wrote in number 2 here, and then put a number 3 on your paper. And if you're using a small notebook, you might need extra space. It's okay. Take the time to do that. Write down number 3 and answer this question. Why does this matter to you? What you wrote in number 2 is unique. It's a little bit more intense than what you wrote in number 1. It's more refined. It has more validity to it. Now, a caution as you get into number 3 is that if you don't let your guard down, you're going to very likely just begin to spout platitudes of how you believe the world should be and what you think it should look like or what you believe it should look like. And it's very easy to start talking about, when we get into your belief system, to start talking about what you expect or what you hope for, okay? But that's not what we're doing here. What we're doing instead is you're focused in on what you wrote in number 2, and we're accessing the belief system now. So
Lo que menciona hasta aquí, la pregunta número 3 es, ¿por qué esto me importa? ¿Verdad? Why does this matters to you? ¿Por qué esto me importa a mí? Y lo más fácil es ir por la parte lógica, sí, porque esto me da esto, lo otro, pero en verdad donde tenemos que ir es más a la parte emocional, es cómo esto me hace sentir, es por qué para mí es importante.
you're going to do is you're going to write down what you why what you wrote in number 2 matters to you. And your writing prompt is because I believe. And so it's going.
Entonces, lo que tenemos que hacer es ahora responder porque yo creo, because I believe, ¿verdad? Esa sería cómo vamos a empezar a contestar la pregunta número 3. Because I believe. Y tiene que estar relacionada con la pregunta número 2.
To sound a lot like this. Because I believe that people need this. Because I believe that I need this. Because I believe that people have this certain need or idea. Okay? You see where that's going? Now, I'm going to give you a moment here to look at what you wrote in number 2 and to write your answer down for number 3. Again, beginning with because I believe. Go ahead and take a few minutes here and just let it flow out of your mind. And if you feel any emotional cues as you're going here, let them come, because that means that you're tapping into this area of your mind where these emotions live, and it's perfectly fine to have those come to the surface at this point. So go ahead and pause the recording and write down your answer to question number 3. Okay.
No voy a poner pausa porque si no se nos va a agotar el tiempo y me gustaría terminar toda la idea central del Finding Your Why, pero va a quedar como tarea para que lo puedan hacer tranquilas en sus casas, ¿sí? Y voy a pasar las preguntas en limpio si es que las necesitan en el chat.
Good job. Now, I did mention before you pause that you might start feeling some emotion. Don't worry if you're not. It's okay if you're not feeling emotional yet. The whole purpose of what we're doing here is to help tap into your emotional motivators, but it doesn't mean you have to have tears streaming down your face. However, what I have found is that as we start to work down through these layers, chances are good that as you're writing out what you truly believe about what you wrote in number 2, that you're going to start to feel some twinges of passion, emotion. It's going to be tied to areas of your brain that are very personal and very what I call sacred, okay? These are the things that make you tick. This is how you work in the world, okay? Now, it's important to look at what you wrote in number 3, because this is the beliefs that you hold so close and so dear. These are the beliefs that actually have caused you to take doTERRA on as a business. These are the beliefs that guide.
Ahora vamos a empezar a hablar de las creencias, que son las creencias que nos llevan a hacer lo que estamos haciendo.
Most of what you do. Now, if you think that this is a little crazy or, well, there's so much more to me than what's here, you're absolutely right that there's more to you. You're absolutely right that we're complex creatures. But when it comes down to why we do what we do, this trail that we're on to the top of this mountain, it's a pretty well-worn path. In other words, you have gone this route in your brain. These neural pathways in your mind are well tread. You have been down these roads so many times in making decisions and not even realizing it. A lot of the biggest decisions you've made in your life and the things that have come into your life and the things that you're working toward are because of these beliefs. Now, in order to understand why you do what you do, to understand where this all came from, and to be able to pin this down as an anchor to help you move forward, you're going to look at what you wrote down in number 3. You're going to look at these beliefs. If you have written down any beliefs that start with, because I believe people need this, or I believe that people lack that, if there's things about other people, I want you to pause the recording right now and rewrite those statements in the first person. Because I lack this, because I want this. This should be a very insightful moment for you in this exercise. If you need to correct these, go ahead and pause the recording right now and make those changes. And if you haven't, if you don't need to do that,
Bueno, lo que está mencionando aquí, que si necesitamos hacer alguna corrección o revisión de lo que fuimos apuntando, que este es el momento, pero vamos a pasarlo para poder llegar al final de la pregunta 4.
Just go ahead and keep moving forward. So we're all together again. We're moving forward and we're going into step number 4. Now, step number 4, if you have not gotten off into the weed spouting platitudes, if you have been totally open and honest with yourself at this point, your heart's pounding in your chest, your mind is very clear as you've peeled away these logical layers and these thoughts that consume us with social convention and other things that we worry about from day to day, and you're focused on your beliefs. Now we're going to come around one more corner, and this is going to get us up to the summit of your mountain on this hike that we've been going on together here with me as your trail guide. Now, as we get to the end here, I want you to understand something. I have done this exercise now with thousands of people. Thousands of people. I facilitate it one-on-one. I facilitated it in groups of 10, of 20. I have facilitated it in groups of 2,000 or more. And every single time that I've done this, people have found something worthwhile. Now, it's also possible that you're going to need to keep asking yourself these questions of why. You're going to need to keep asking, why is this important to me? Why does this matter to me? And keep getting it down so that you get to this point where you have these core beliefs. Once you have these core beliefs in hand, you're ready for step number 4. And as your trail guide here at the end,
Está como tardando un poquitito para llegar a la pregunta 4, pero ya llegamos, chicas. Sigue repasando que nuestros core beliefs, nuestras creencias, que son desde el centro, pero ya llegamos, ya llegamos.
I'm going to help you figure out how to take what you're going to write down in number 4 and summit your mountain. And once we're done here with number 4, you're going to be able to look at what you wrote, and you're going to be able to look around the valley of your life in 360 degrees, just like you're standing on top of a mountain. And every experience that you've had leading up to this point, you're going to be able to see clearly through this lens that we're about to identify, okay? So no pressure, right? So just relax, let your guard down, and I'm going to give you one more tip here. A lot of people get tripped up at this point in this exercise because they start to feel like their why sounds selfish. And when I say most people, I'm going to actually say most women. A lot of guys, and guys, if you're listening.
Lo que está mencionando ahora, que cuando llegamos a este punto, la mayoría de las mujeres sentimos que estamos siendo un poco egoístas con nuestros statements, digamos.
A lot of men don't struggle with this as much. Now, it's okay if you're a guy and you're thinking, oh gosh, this is starting to sound really selfish. But the reason that women tend to struggle with this is because not just society, but your very nature is one of self-sacrifice. And you're used to nurturing others. You're used to giving up your own interests in the things that matter the most to you to help others on their journey.
Porque justamente lo que mencionas, que nuestra esencia como mujer es ayudar a los demás hasta ceder nuestros bienes, o sea, hasta esto tiene que significar renunciar a cosas nuestras que nos gustan por estar ayudando a los demás. Entonces esto nos hace como sentir culpable o egoístas. En cambio, los hombres no tienen ningún sentido de culpa.
And chances are good that the others that you're giving up your time and attention for are either a partner or most likely it's little people that you've created. And they are very needy and they have they make a lot of demands on you. And so you've given up a lot of things that matter to you. However, it's important for you to get clear on your why, to let all of those other things fade away. Your why is about you. Your why is because of your experiences. Your why exists because of the things that have happened and brought you to this point in your life. And whether you believe in God or the universe or Mother Nature or whatever it is that's pulling you along to this point, you realize that there are forces that are acting on you throughout your life that have shaped you and made you who you are today. Now it's time to look at what you wrote in number 3. And this 4th question is slightly different. than what we've asked all along. You're going to look at what you wrote in number 3, and you're going to answer this question. How did you come to believe this? How did you come to believe this? Why do you believe this? And in order to answer this question, you're going to
Bueno, ya haciendo todo el repaso que hicimos, ahora va la pregunta de how did you come to believe this? ¿Cómo hiciste para creer esto? Y esto tiene que ver con la pregunta número 3, que era ¿por qué esto es importante para ti? Y empezamos porque yo creo que taratá, taratá, taratá.
think back to the first time that you realized that these beliefs mattered to you, that you realized that you started believing these things. Chances are good it's going to be a long time ago. It's going to be in your childhood, probably your early teens, maybe your late teens. And less often, but still possible, it might be something that happened in your early adult years. It's very rarely something that happened beyond that. A lot of our formative experiences happen as young as...
Lo que está mencionando que muy probable que este pensamiento o esta creencia tenga que ver con un momento mucho más atrás en nuestra vida, el cual capaz se quedó ahí atascado o nos hizo que sea importante. Yo qué sé, capaz el tema, un tema financiero, capaz en la niñez esto fue algo muy importante o los padres recalcaron mucho sobre esto. Entonces para vos hoy es muy importante porque te hace sentir... el tenerlo te hace sentir bien y el no tenerlo te hace sentir como no segura, angustiada, etc.
4 years old, 5 years old. It could be somewhere in your early teens, like 12 or 13, 14 years old. Okay? So you're going to think back as you look at these beliefs and you're going to answer the question this way. Because I know. Because I know.
Vamos a responder esta pregunta porque yo sé.
Now, I'm going to give you an additional writing prompt like I did with the others. It's going to serve you best if, as you're saying these phrases and writing this out, that you say it this way, because I know what it feels like to blank. I know what blank feels like. Okay. Now, the reason that we're saying it this way and that we're...
Porque yo sé lo que se siente, taratata, capaz. Porque yo sé lo que se siente no tener una seguridad económica. Porque yo sé lo que se siente capaz tener esta enfermedad. O porque yo sé lo que se siente el no recibir ayuda o sentirte rechazado. Ah, ¿a dónde me fui? Esperen. Aquí estoy. A ver.
Getting into it this way is because, remember, we're accessing feelings. Your limbic brain, where all of this stuff lives, it has no capacity for communication. It doesn't communicate in language. What it does instead is it communicates in feelings. And the feelings are driven by the experiences that you've had and how it's been trained. And so that's why quite often you might feel like you're getting into an argument with yourself because you're logically trying to override these feelings that your limbic brain holds so dear. Do you know what your limbic brain's number one job is? Your limbic brain's job is to keep you alive, self-preservation. And so it's a tricky thing, this little system that we have all tied together. It has to do with memories, and it has to do with aromas, and it has to do with all of these things that come together in this ball of nerves that controls everything that we do. And it's been trained by our experiences. And so on one hand, it's doing everything that it can to navigate the day-to-day using data that we've collected along the way. And
bueno, aquí es como que hay una parte que se divaga un poco, pero lo que está hablando es que Cuando entramos a nuestro sistema límbico, que justamente nos ayuda a toda esta parte de la supervivencia, también entra todo este tema de los recuerdos y cosas que hayan pasado un tiempo atrás. Si les parece, no sé si pueden quedarse hasta el final o quieren cortar hasta aquí y continuamos mañana, porque la charla de mañana es bastante corta.
Como quieran las demás.
Como tú quieras.
Clau, podríamos aterrizar las preguntas que nos vas a mandar, porque ya, bueno, yo ya hice mis anotaciones, pero como...
Bueno, vamos a hacer algo, porque acá ya simplemente es el final y está hablando de cómo nuestra mente juega entre nosotros. Las 4 preguntas son: ¿por qué estoy haciendo doterra como negocio? Y tenemos que contestar: porque yo, taratata, ¿ok?
Sí.
La segunda pregunta tiene que ver con la primera. Tenemos que revisar qué pusimos en la primera para contestar la segunda. Y dice: ¿por qué esto es importante para mí? Y tengo que contestar: porque yo pienso que taratá, es importante, bla, 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 bla. La pregunta número 3, tenemos que revisar la número 2. Hasta aquí la 1 y la 2 fue 100% lógica. Y ahora vamos a entrar más como a la parte emocional. La pregunta número 3 es: ¿por qué esto es why this important to me y why does this y por qué la primera era ¿por qué esto es importante para mí? Y el segundo es why does this matters to you, o sea, ¿por qué esto te importa a ti? Y tenemos que contestar con porque yo creo taratá. Y la pregunta número 4 es: how did you come to believe this? ¿Por qué llegaste a creer esto? Es la pregunta en español. Y la respuesta tiene que ser: porque yo sé que me hace sentir como ¿Ok? Vamos a dejar esto hasta aquí, creo que es como bastante información. Yo de todas formas voy a volver a revisar esta grabación para tener como las preguntas bien claras, porque de repente se va, viene. Y se las voy a compartir en el chat y mañana podemos revisar algunas preguntas si quieren. ¿Les parece bien?
Muchas gracias, sí, muchas gracias.
Dale. Bueno, genial. Gracias, chicas. Voy a dejar de compartir pantalla y nos vemos mañana.
Muchas gracias, Claudia.
Gracias.
Chao, chao.
Gracias a todas, bonitas.